Greetings, and thank you for joining Kanwal and I today. We'll start first with some introductions. I'm Becky Thielen. I lead a people analytics team that supports our HR centers of excellence. That includes things like diversity and inclusion, talent acquisition, learning, etc. My team partners with each of the HR leaders to assess and analyze priorities, programs, processes, and systems. I get the opportunity as well to work with Kanwal on her team most days. Kanwal, can you share a bit about your role?
Absolutely happy to, Becky. Thank you for kicking us off. And to you all listening, thank you for joining us as we share some learnings from our work thus far. My name is Safdar, and similar to Becky, I lead a people analytics team that partners primarily with our HR business partners to enable data-driven decisions. And our work streams range all the way from diversity and inclusion, employee listening, retention programs, etc. This team also partners heavily with product to help shape future vision and internal implementation efforts. As Becky said, she and I are really joined at the hip when it comes to our day-to-day and longer-term work initiatives as well. Back to you, Becky.
Thanks, Kanwal. As we mentioned, we're excited for the opportunity to share our experiences in navigating the pandemic of COVID-19 as it relates to our employee experiences, feeling of well-being, connectedness, inclusion, and belonging. While we continue to deal with this unprecedented event each and every day, we've been reflecting on the decisions we've made, how our mission and our culture have influenced those decisions, and with the goal to let our culture continue to guide us forward. Kanwal and I will talk you through some of our high-level approach today, some of the key themes that we've had, leveraging our HR data, Microsoft Viva Analytics and Insights, also sharing a few learnings and actions that we've done as we take action to our insights that we found. We'll also give you some advice here and there around some encouragement of areas to look into for your people analytics functions. As we kick off, one more note I would say is we get the opportunity to share these insights with you today. There's so many talented individuals that we worked with across our function to build these insights. All right, so as we go through this year, we've had a framework in place to help us with equipping our leaders for what they need to know now and in the future as we go through this challenging time. The way we manage this approach is by using this construct: respond, recover, and reimagine. We've had many cycles of this approach this year with all the challenges that we've experienced and we continue to experience as the year has gone on. First, let's hit respond. So in respond, it's focusing on navigating the now, the basic needs that we need to do our jobs, to take care of ourselves, our families, etc. Our recover is planning the comeback. You know, it's a lot of hard work that's in the system right now for us as personals impact as well as work impact. So focusing on streamlining, resilience, and connection, also our effectiveness together. And then reimagine it's all about the future and how we think about the learnings that we've had this year. In our people analytics function, we've been learning on hyperspeed. There's so much that we can take into our future and shape the future with what we've learned. To enable us to respond, recover, and reimagine, we've leveraged data. Specifically today, we'll talk you through some high-level examples of the data that we used, some focus on our employee listening system as our first stop. Kanwal, will you start sharing some more examples with the team?
Absolutely. Our mission in HR at Microsoft is to empower the people who empower the planet. To help execute on that and to help us respond, recover, and reimagine, as Becky said, we have an employee listening system that drives continuous progress in making Microsoft an exceptional place to work and an evolving culture with a growth mindset. Our employee listening system is made up of both active as well as ambient listening components. Our active listening includes our annual engagement survey, our daily pulse survey, and employee lifecycle surveys capturing sentiment on 3 of our key moments that matter. While normally our daily pulse survey provides us with insights related to culture, leadership, and strategy, this survey has been particularly instrumental in providing rich insights on the perceptions of our employee population during COVID-19. When COVID hit the US in early March, we quickly added a couple of questions to understand if our employees were getting the information they needed from leadership. And once we moved into the recovery phase, we pivoted our questions to focus on employee perceptions of productivity, work-life balance, prioritization support, team connectedness. And we also asked specific questions of our managers to make sure we were addressing their concerns and providing them with the right level of support as well. Our ambient listening has also been crucial during this time. Understanding the data from workplace analytics and matching that up with our employee sentiment through Daily Pulse gives us really rich insight into different behaviors that lead to employees feeling more or less productive or having more positive or negative work-life balance. And in addition, looking at our social listening systems, such as Yammer, and our partnership with employee comms, our tier 1 employee HR support has really helped us hone in on places where employees are struggling and need more support. But of course, you can only listen if someone is truly willing to speak up. And that's why the notion of employee voice is key for us throughout. And as you get into the cycle of listening and speaking up, it forms this really virtuous cycle of actions and insights as well. And we're really excited to share some of those insights and actions in these next few slides. So when we think about the context of Microsoft, the 3 themes that we wanted to share with you today are well-being, connectedness, and inclusion. Obviously, a lot more at play that we could delve into, but that would require a much longer conversation. And a quick reminder here to really consider the context of your world, your organization, your employees. While these were key for us, your top 3 themes could well be different. So, speaking of well-being, during the last year, as the pandemic unfolded and the health and safety of our employees was our priority, focusing on employee well-being was critical. Our workplace analytics data showed that largely employees were either more productive during COVID than they were prior, or able to maintain similar levels. But we could see in our Daily Pulse data that was coming at a cost to our employees' work-life balance. And we needed to understand some behaviors that could address that. First and foremost, by correlating data from workplace analytics to our sentiment data, we were able to see the connection that focus time has with the perception of work-life balance. Through our analytics, we saw that employees satisfied with their work-life balance had 1.3 times the number of focus hours as compared to employees less satisfied with their work-life balance. And what are these magical focus hours? Really, these are uninterrupted time blocks of 2 hours or more with no meetings, so you can truly get work done. Another key element of the journey of work-life balance was the ability to prioritize effectively. Individual contributors who felt that they received the prioritization from their managers were 3.5 more times positive as far as their work-life balance is concerned than their counterparts who lacked this prioritization support. And it was even more pronounced when it came to managers who got like a 5 times more positive boost as far as their work-life balance is concerned. This need to focus on well-being was so critical and so important that it was highlighted to our managers in one of our monthly emails from our CHRO, Kathleen Hogan, as well as discussed at the senior leadership level. And talk about taking data into insights and then action. Based on findings from this work, Microsoft recently announced Wellbeing Days as a reminder to all of us to really take care of ourselves as we continue to be there for each other and our teams. And finally, if you needed any more convincing that focusing on well-being is important, we found in our data that there is a link between customer satisfaction and employees' perception of work-life balance. Customer satisfaction was seen to be higher across all roles for employees who responded favorably to work-life balance questions, with significant correlation for some roles in particular. Becky, what else did we want to share with our audience today?
Next, I want to share some connectedness trends, Kanwal. Another important trend that we saw during this pandemic was the feeling of connection dropping as COVID continued. Personally, I would say I felt this myself, not only from my work team and my work family, is also outside of work with my friends and family. It's so hard keeping the feeling of tight connection with our loved ones that we used to have family connection with, friends that we would go to dinner or events or vacations with, and then our work teams that we would just see in the hallway, see in the kitchen, bump into in conference rooms. So while at Microsoft, our technology has enabled us to continue to be productive during this hard year, our daily pulse listening system showed us that we are dropping this sense of connection for our both individual contributors, which is dropping at a faster pace, and then also with our managers, a bit more gradual, but dropping as well. So we dug into these trends, of course, very concerned at this drop, and looked for our correlations to inform some actions. We found when managers stepped in to help teams prioritize, the teams feel more productive. They maintain a work-life balance, which we just heard from Kanwal how important that is, and also how our employees are feeling connected with one another. So the most basic thing a manager could do is foster that connected environment and help teams prioritize their work. A few more correlations I'll call out for our people analytics lovers out there. We found one on work-life balance here. So at Microsoft, employees felt satisfied with their work-life balance was 1.3 times more likely to feel connected to their teams. Also, if they had a passion for work, so employees who said that they love the work they do were 1.4 times more likely to feel connected. And then a supportive team culture was our next one, where employees who felt connected were 1.6 times more likely to say that their coworkers behaved in supportive ways. All very important trends to help us inform actions that we could take across the board. Kanwal's already mentioned an email that came out supporting our managers and our employees from Kathleen, also the announcement of our Wellbeing days. We also have things out there that came in that was as reminders for one-on-ones and different connections. Some of that came in the email, and also some came with the Microsoft Viva Insights app, where we have nudges inside there to help folks stay connected, task reminders, one-on-ones, and praise that could be helped and nudged from there. And then we continue to monitor these trends to help our teams, our employees, our managers feel connected. Next up, I want to go over is inclusion and belonging. It's another thing that we've been analyzing and looking for patterns and correlations between our employee listening system and how employees answer questions around the sentiment of inclusion and belonging, as well as aligning that data with things like the Microsoft Viva Insights data to see what those kind of different behaviors, collaborations, et cetera, look like. A couple of insights that we found and that we're currently monitoring during this time is how the employee internal network size matters. We see a positive correlation inside Microsoft for the inclusion sentiment and having larger networks. We saw this before the pandemic, and it's maintained that need inside this year that we've had. Knowing this importance of the internal network, and in prior years, that network many times would build through in-person events, in-person connections. We had to think differently about how we do things and ensure that, say, the new employee orientation, while it's a big online session, how do you have connections that matter in those moments? And how do we help employees continue to grow those connections with things like nudges and my analytics for them? Another thing to call out as well is internal collaboration. We found that there's a sweet spot in internal collaboration around how much time is spent. You'll see on the chart there on the right is that middle point. It's still high, quite a bit of collaboration, but not the highest, because you could get the burnout in that piece where they're constantly collaborating. And it's definitely not the lowest. So looking for that sweet spot, encouraging strong collaboration across the teams. Couple things that I would call out just as a recommendation for our people analytics teams out there. These trends are inside Microsoft and they're very top level. We saw differences when we collect in deeper. We saw differences in organizations and geographies and your type of role, whether you're a manager or IC. And we also saw differences in diversity demographics. I think understanding those correlations and the lived experiences difference that you can have based on your role, geography, et cetera, is so critical to understand what each employee needs to be supported. This year has been a rough year on all of us, and some more than others. I'm personally a mom. I have 3 kids here at home, 2 that's in remote school. I'm actually shocked you haven't seen one of them come in, because that's a common occurrence for me. And juggling is one of the things that we've had to do this year in my household, and I know many others. but I personally get to feel supported from my manager, from my organization, and Microsoft. I give my feedback like every other employee, and I do feel that it gets heard. I would encourage each company, each people analytics group to think about ways that they can look at different demographics, click deeper, and understand their larger employee base needs and those different lived experiences. To wrap us up, I'm going to go over just high level some actions that we did take. Kanwal mentioned some, I mentioned some through the presentation today. Here's a few more. We use platforms like Yammer to post to our HR community to have insights for all when there's an important insight that we come up with, that they can use it in their day-to-day job with their clients or if they're working on HR programs. Another thing that we use is a platform called MyHub. This is a place for managers to go to get their information about their team, to manage their teams effectively. This is also where we deploy many of our insights for our managers to help potentially inform them in actions that they could take and help them along the way. And lastly, we use our products. Kanwal mentioned right up front in her introduction, she partners with our product teams. Her team does quite a bit of that, and so does across HRBI or HR Business Insights and our Microsoft People Analytics team. We inform our product teams some of our insights that we find so we can think about nudges, think about moments that matter to make some things within, say, Viva Insights to help push connections, one-on-one time, focus time, well-being. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to Kanwal and I talk through these examples and some of our learnings through the year. If you want to know a little bit more, we've got some publications out there. One, I have a link here on the slide to our Microsoft.com Work Trends latest report. Thank you all very much.